beginning. Let's go.
Yep.
All right, folks, and we are live. Very nice. Okay, quick note in the chat. This is the first time I'm doing this, like live streaming through YouTube. So you guys gotta keep me posted if there's any problems cropping up, like sound issues or video issues or something not showing or whatever. Can you hear me all right? Let me know if in the chat. Woo! Someone's excited. Very nice. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. Like I said, first time live streaming. Got some really nice guests coming in today to show us a great Uzuri matchup. So how's the audio quality? We're good? Okay, nice. Thanks. All right. I already have Colin in here.
Hey.
Can you hear him all right? Sound up a bit, Colin. I just want to make sure we don't have any audio issues in here.
Checking. 1, 2, 3.
Ooh, we got somebody joining in from down under. Nice.
I know Ben will be happy to hear that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, perfect. So that seems to work. Wonderful. Okay, perfect. Your audio seems fine. My audio seems fine. Ollie's not here yet. He has to finish up work. He'll be joining us in a couple of minutes, probably. So to start this thing off, right, like I wanted to go over the lists you guys will be playing today as compared to what you were playing before, what you were playing in the videos you already did with me, the deck tech videos, which were a couple of weeks ago. So obviously the lists have changed a little bit since then. Like, you know, the big boogeyman's gone, no more Oldhim, so you don't really have to prepare lists with Oldhim in mind anymore, which frees up a couple of slots in the deck. So maybe we just start with your list. Let me just pop over real quick here. And then we can go over the list. And I'll just share my screen to you so you can actually see what I'm doing here.
Sounds good.
And there we go. That looks good. Okay, perfect. And Ollie's here. Nice. Hi.
Hello.
Okay.
Sorry, mate.
Nah, no worries. We're good. We just got started. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna start with Colin's list. Like, don't do the whole thing, right? Like, just go over what's changed compared to the list you showed us last time. What's new in here?
So you'll pretty much see that the main board and the equipment's pretty much the same, but if you can scroll down to the sideboard, I have a little bit of new spicy tech in the Coastal Blood Rot. I've been trying it out a little bit, and it replaces itself, and it deals pretty much 2 damage for pretty much free. So also allows for things like arsenaling the Death Touch or making your opponent arsenal card, so your Lead No Witnesses and Command and Conquerors actually have an on-hand effect. So, yeah. Same list. Nothing's really changed.
Yeah, that works. Like, because that's something I noticed. Some decks have started to kind of wise up to Uzuri's tricks, right? Especially like aggro decks are sometimes trying to kind of play around Arsenal, basically. They're trying to just always just send the full hand, you know, don't put anything in Arsenal, so they can play around the Command and Conquers, play around the Leave No Witnesses. And the Codex of Bloodrot obviously is great for, forcing them basically to Arsenal something so you can blow it up. That's a pretty spicy card. But yeah, otherwise looks pretty much the same. We got some Humbles in here. Great, basically extra disruption card against almost everything in the meta currently. Some Hurls. This is still like Dromai stuff, or against the more defensive matchups, I'm assuming. Bunch of Shreds, Frailty Trap. Okay, so this looks fairly identical, apart from like a couple of changes, a couple of small changes, right? No more Scale Peeler since Oldhim's gone. No more Plague Hive. Very sad to see that gone, but yeah.
I know, but Codex of Bloodrot achieves a similar effect.
Yeah. It's kind of the same, and it still blocks. It's not random, and you're not likely to see second cycle with this deck quite a bit. Like you're trying to kill the opponent on the first cycle, so it kind of makes sense. I get it. Okay, so this is, as always, the link to this will be down in the description of the video. So if you want to play these decks yourself, you can check that out and play them. So this is Colin's deck, and that's the one he'll be piloting today. And then why don't we switch over to the deck that Ollie will be playing today. So this is the Contract Uzuri version, and I think this has changed quite a bit compared to what you've shown us last time, right?
Yeah, it's quite a lot of updates.
Yep.
With Oldham going, freed up a lot of spaces, and you can just kind of focus on just having really smooth turns instead. Where you can block efficiently and just keep playing all your cards. We've gone lower on attack reactions, just to make sure you can ponder and Arsenal any card. And it's less reliant on just what your opponent does, I guess.
Yeah, okay. So we got basically... Oh yeah, there's actually no more Shreds. Am I seeing that right?
Yeah, no more Shreds.
Yeah, so just basically only to cut to the chase, and that's it for reactions, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Or I mean, obviously attack reactions. There's still a bunch of defense reactions in the deck. Those haven't gone anywhere, but it makes sense, right? Like anything you wanna draw off Ponder should be something that feels good in Arsenal. Basically, is kind of the idea with that. Where you're just happy to just Arsenal anything you have left over at the end of a turn, or anything you draw from a Ponder, you can just chuck that in Arsenal and be happy to have it there. And because, I mean, Redline can kind of get around this to some extent because you run Crown of Providence. So you can Arsenal anything once and then just kind of cycle it out and you're good to go. And because you don't have Crown of Providence, you're running Mask of Perdition, right? You don't have that luxury, so you need to kind of make sure through deck building that everything that lands in your arsenal is something that you actually want in there. So that makes perfect sense.
Drawing a shred off the Ponder or getting it over where they've overblocked just feels bad. Doesn't
feel good, I'll agree. And then also there's a bunch of blue stealth cards now over the 3 isolates that you had before. There's now also Backstab and Wither. And this is like, I mean, we spoke about this before. This is like a tech basically brought over from Sebastian's list, right? That
the calling
second
list,
at the calling in Antwerp.
Yeah, just more blues kind of smooth out of the deck. Your blue, you might as well make them stealth cards. They're quite good. Like Backstab has its uses. And then it also just helps, lets you enable looking for scrap.
Yep.
Which is quite good.
Oh, yeah.
Aggressive tool.
Yeah, I've been honestly kind of... I underestimated this card in the beginning because I was like, yeah, it's fine, in Limited. It's a decent card in Limited. But if you can line it up with a Tunic, it's basically like E-Strike where you don't have to bottom a card. It's just like a free 5 go again. And that's honestly pretty good. It can allow the deck to really be surprisingly aggressive, which is not
deck curve as well with like all your 2 costs.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
With blue, it would just be it could be a blue.
Yep.
Looking for a scrap, CNC or something.
Yep. I mean, that's a 3-card 11, right? That's a pretty good rate. Can't complain about that with like an on hit on top of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty decent. Okay. So these are the decks. Again, they will be down in the description. So if you want to check them out, you can just do that at your own pace. And now to see how they actually play, these 2 guys will go up in a best of 3 head-on match, Mirror Contract versus Redline Uzuri, to finally settle the question, which Uzuri is better? I want to preface this. This is obviously not to be taken 100% seriously, because the only thing it'll prove is which Uzuri is better in this specific mirror, right? And then obviously for other matchups, you know, they still have like a slightly different matchup spread, and they're both very good decks. That's basically what I'm trying to say here. And they're both decks that you can play very well and play beautifully, and they're good. Wait, I should not be joining this. This makes no sense. I'll need the spectate link once Ollie has joined that. But yeah, so we're proving today which of the Uzuri lists is better in the mirror specifically, and not which one of them is better overall, I would say. All right. Let me know when you've got this set up.
Yep, we're currently in the sideboarding screen.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Can you drop me a spectator link? Oh, I think you can only do this once you've actually
Yeah, we can only do it once we
started the game, right?
start the game.
Mm-hmm.
Alright.
So yeah, I mean, we're not going to talk about sideboarding now, because that would sort of give away your game plan, obviously. We're going to talk about it a little bit after the game. Just go through some of your choices. What's the idea? Why are you sideboarding this?
Ollie, you got the spectator link?
Yeah, I'll grab it.
Thank
And
you.
then ideally, you can set it to caster mode. Oh yeah, right. That is completely true. I'm sorry, I did put the wrong link. Let me just fix that real quick. That is the one that he's playing today. Okay, perfect. Got the spectator link here. So I will be... Okay. And... Alright, that's looking good. So can you set it to caster mode? I think you guys need to do this.
I've done it on my side.
Because I cannot wait.
Do not know where caster mode is.
You may have to go in Legacy Talishram,
Right,
and then it'll be in the menu.
could be.
Okay, that should be good.
Ah, perfect. Yeah. Okay, so I can see both of your hands. Wonderful. All right. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna mute myself in Discord, so I can actually, you know, do some casting stuff, and you guys can play uninterrupted. And you just let me know when you're done, and I'll mute you a little bit in the actual game.
Okay. Are we good to go?
And
Sounds good.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna lower the volume a little bit. And apparently Colin went first. Ah, no. Okay, actually, no. My bad. Ollie went first. And he started with a Enlightened Strike into a Contract, and then arsenaling the Fate Foreseen. So that's pretty decent. Didn't leak any damage, but that's not really what you're trying to do there. And okay, right. So he's coming in with the isolate. This is obviously threatening a swap, right? Could I zoom in a bit? I can try. Let's see, maybe I can actually go back to the beta UI. Yeah, the issue is with this, you can kind of see more, but it doesn't have the caster mode, so that doesn't work. So I'm just gonna do it like this. How's that?
Bit of an awkward end.
Okay.
A little bit of a curveball for you.
So Ollie's spending a little bit of time in the tank here. Blocking isolate with an isolate. Okay, and then he's swapping in. And yeah, there's the sync from Arsenal. And that just covers it up. It's a surgical, so nothing's happening here. And he doesn't yet have a target for that looking for a scrap. So that's kind of an issue. But still fully covering up that Enlightened Strike. That's fine. Because he has the Oasis that he can put in Arsenal next turn. And then Colin's just arsenaling the Death Touch. He's got the Tunic coming up too. So he just knows, okay, this is fine. I can block with anything in my hand if I want to. But he's probably looking for a isolate, shakedown, break boots, death touch kind of play here in this situation. And now obviously the... Oh, you can't see the health because my ugly face is over it. Yes. No problem. Okay. Perfect. That should be fine now. Okay, so there's the shakedown. There's the boots crack. Yep. And now this is gonna, like, not ideal, but yeah, he has the 2 defense reactions to cover it up, or he's gonna use the frailty trap to pay for the Oasis. Let's see what he does here. Might sink just to get the maximum value from that sink below. Yeah, he's sinking that. And now he's probably, yeah, playing the Oasis, pitching for it. I mean, you kind of don't like pitching for Oasis, right? It's not great a lot of times, but sometimes you have to do it. There's no way around it. Yeah, and then he's just playing that. Okay, Hurl and Arsenal doesn't hurt. So we have the Wither, threatening swap from the Humble. And again, the Oasis coming in when you don't really need it. That's like, I'm personally not a huge fan of Oasis because of this specific reason, right? You kind of always draw it when you don't really need it. That's kind of the issue I have with that card. At least for me, that's how it works out. Like, it rarely lines up with Tunic. But in this case, I mean, yeah, he's still not leaking any damage. He got the health from it. Can Arsenal the Death Touch for next turn. Not the worst. But currently, Colin's in the driver's seat with this. Definitely. Face up surgical. Yep. So that is definitely threatening some kind of reaction. And that's kind of the difference between these two decks, right? It's like, okay, you have the option to just go over, right? That's something that Redline can do. And what was Colin's deck count, right? I'll have to ask him, but I think he started with a slightly higher one. I didn't catch it. These guys are playing very fast. Like you can tell they're both very experienced pilots of this deck. They're playing pretty fast. Colin is on top. So Fari Giraffe is Colin on the Redline list. And then Archon Alters is obviously Archon Alters on the contract list on the bottom. And now currently trying to figure out if he wants to block the CNC or not. Because he has some pretty decent lines. He can go like Backstab into Annihilate into Leave No Witnesses. That's not the worst. Like there's no Arsenal currently. But you don't hate it necessarily. Yeah, there's a Sink covering that up. But honestly, like Leave No Witnesses is a good Arsenal card. You know, you don't hate seeing that. Yeah. Tunic lining up to pay for that surgical. But this is a face-up surgical, right? Like he knows what's coming here. So we're probably looking give and take, dagger into Leave No Witnesses. Yep. It's just taking that. And then Leave No Witnesses is just chipping in at this point, right? Like it's just a little bit of damage. A little bit of extra damage. Banishing 2 cards, getting the silver because it's a red line deck, right? Like almost everything is red. And he banished a Oasis and a Frailty Trap. Okay. And now Colin back with constantly threatening the swaps, right? That's what Redline does best. Like just get a swap and a stealth card basically every single turn. So you can just threaten these swaps constantly and just keep the opponent guessing. But this is great. This is like Codex of Frailty into CNC. Perfect. Can't hate it.
No CNC here is pretty sad.
Oh, he doesn't have a CNC in Arsenal. In Graveyard, actually. He does not have a CNC in Graveyard. Yeah, that is sad. Okay, yeah. He'll have to probably grab a Death Touch then. Or maybe Leave No Witnesses, but that's kind of just not that great in this situation because it's way easier to cover up. Oh, he takes a Shakedown. Okay, that's interesting. Fair enough. Probably looking to flick maybe to activate it. Mm-hmm. Let's see, does he activate it actually? With the mask, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Wasting the block. And he chose... Oh, he chose yellow actually. That's interesting. Huh. Okay. Hitting the Codex there. That was some smart foretelling on Ollie's part, definitely. Yep, going over with the command, arsenaling the Sink. And now Nimblism, Leave No Witnesses with a Shred to back it up. Oof. That's pretty nasty. Yeah, that read on the Codex on Ollie's part was pretty good. Like, I personally don't think I would have called yellow in that situation, especially if I knew my opponent was on a red line list. Maybe the idea was he chose the CNC, right? And it was in Arsenal, so he had to have something to pay for it. And the deck does run more yellows than blues, so maybe that kind of makes sense. Yep. He has to start respecting those banishes, right? He has to start respecting those banishes. Okay, and he's flicking to turn it on. Okay, frailty trap. And a sink, and then he shreds it. So yeah. He actually could have not flicked, but you're kind of forced to flick in this situation, because if you don't flick, the opponent can just be like, okay, I'm just gonna take 6.
Yeah, misclick that.
If he's in a position where he can allow himself to do that. And since Ollie is currently leading on live, right, he could just be like, okay.
Should've probably blocked with the card I sunk. That was a misplay, I think.
Just a couple of daggers. No arsenal. So this turn is just vanilla damage on Colin's part, but he can probably, yeah, he can still get a block here. And now he just goes over. Yeah. And yeah, he's just preserving the life. Just playing the Codex of Bloodrot. It's just 2 damage. Basically like a yellow head jab, except it replaces itself from the ponder, so not exactly great, but it's not the worst turn. Interesting choice to lead with the infect here. So he's swapping in the Command and Conquer. Death Touch from Arsenal. Easy block 6. Yep. Oof, this is nasty. So he can now go leave no witnesses. No, like, yeah, probably
block with your arsenal.
probably leave no witnesses, I think.
Yeah.
Probably leave no witnesses. Or he's grabbing your Death Touch. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Just go in Death Touch for 9. Because he has the resource floating anyways.
What do I want?
I could see leave no witnesses here though, just to immediately blow up the arsenal again. Or even CNC, because he had the tunic up, but CNC doesn't grab the buff from the nimblism, so I guess Colin in this scenario just tries to go for maximum damage here, because he has to get Ollie low enough that he has to start to be afraid of this Redline list, of the damage he can put out, right?
Forgot the nimblism was there. Mine's quite big.
Death Touch for 9.
Welcome to Redline.
Death Touch for 9 is pretty filthy. Especially with the dagger on hit. That is pretty disgusting. A little bit in the tank here, trying to figure out how to block this. And I think he's opting to just, yeah, take 5, prevent some of the damage. I mean, he has the life advantage to kind of make it work. And now I would not be surprised to see a Blood Rot. Yeah, there it is. Blood Rot, yes. This is turning into a race, basically. That's the whole thing. It's just a race at this point. So looking for a scrap, coming in for 4 because of the frailty. And then it's Wither into Shakedown. Oof.
Okay.
No blocks. That's spicy. That's pretty spicy. He's probably looking to Rabble, Wither.
That is majorly annoying.
And then go over it with the double spikes. Or not, I suppose. Because he took the Wither, yeah. Yep. So just dagger into Rabble. Which is just kind of, yeah. Okay, give and take. Yeah, this is the point where give and take starts being, like, annoying to deal with, right? Because if you block it regularly, he gets a Codex back, and you're low enough that you have to block it, so... Yep. Flick knives, makes sense. Get him to 1. And then if Colin doesn't manage to kill him next turn, it's just... Yeah, okay, it's cut to the chase. He has the one reaction he's still running in exactly the spot where he needs it. That's pretty nice.
Yep, that's it.
Nice.
I was so hoping that wasn't Shakedown you had.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. That was a quick game, though.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can tell that you guys are both very experienced with this deck, and you can just play it pretty fast. Like, I was having trouble keeping up at some points. But, you know, getting the cut to the chase, like, one of 2 reactions you still have in the deck, actually, that was pretty nice. Pretty spiky in that situation, yeah. But very close.
That Shakedown play where I was trying to go for a double spike with Blood Rot. Oh, it hurt.
Yeah, and then he took the only stealth card you still had, right?
Yeah.
That must have hurt.
Was it a spike in Arsenal as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we had the spike in Arsenal as well. So, so we got a couple of questions from the chat. Like, which one of you actually went first? I didn't notice.
I did.
It was
Okay.
Archon.
Was it your choice, or did he make
It
it?
was my choice, yes.
It was your choice. Okay. What's the rationale there? Like, why are you going first in this matchup? Because I would imagine, right, you treat Redline Uzuri as sort of essentially an aggro deck. And then my choice into aggro decks typically would be to try to go second to maintain tempo.
So the aim of this is to get like a fatigue state generally. So like I can take 4 cards. Generally normally I can dagger attack, and that can take 4 cards.
Okay, right. Yeah,
so
makes
it's just
sense.
4 cards out of deck straight away.
Okay. So your goal from the get-go basically is to play for a fatigue state, and then if you manage to kill him, you know, of course you'll take that, but the idea is to fatigue them. Okay, that makes sense. And another question we got was deck counts. I also didn't catch that in the beginning. Did you both start?
I think I'm at 68 and he's at 72.
Yeah, I'm a full deck.
Full deck 72, and you're running 68. Okay, right. And it was pretty even towards the end now. Both 15 cards left in the deck. Not too much of a difference there. But yeah, that was pretty fast actually, all things considered. Nice game. So obviously with running the full deck, there's no real sideboarding or anything.
No, not really.
And I would assume you don't really change anything going into the second match, just because, you know, that's how the deck operates. That's the idea with the plan for that matchup. So, okay. If you guys need a break or anything, let me know. Otherwise, we can jump right into the second game.
I'm still good to go.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good to go.
All right, let's go. Oh, and right. Normally, this is something I've taken from Magic best of threes. Typically, the loser decides who gets to go first in the second round.
I think Tasha already does that.
Talisha does that on a rematch, actually. Okay, nice. Perfect. Yeah. Talisha is smarter than me then. Fair enough. Okay. Oh yeah, player 1 lost will choose first player for the rematch. Nice. Okay, that's cool. I did not actually know that. Okay, I think you need to re-enable caster mode. Because it's off for me currently.
There we go.
There we go. Perfect. Nice. Okay, I'm going to mute myself again so I can talk to the lovely people in chat while you guys are playing this. And then I'll see you after the game again. Good luck.
Sounds good.
You chose me to go first?
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah. Colin's kind of following like my idea
I'd like to go
that
second.
you kind of want to go second as the Uzuri in a lot of matchups, just because it means that your disruption, if you have it, is actually live and you get the first turn that actually matters. And kind of the only really threatening thing you have with like an isolate play in Uzuri that you can fire off turn 0 is basically Death Touch. That's like the only on hit you have that is actually really relevant, right? Sure, you can go like in this case Leave No Witnesses just to get like that extra red out, and he's going for some very aggressive mask plays, just trying to, you know, get to that fatigue state as quickly as possible, which makes sense, right? If you know your opponent's on like 80% reds or so, you can crack the mask and you just know that Leave No Witnesses is basically gonna get the mask back like 90% of the time. So we're probably getting the Death Touch. He might actually not Arsenal the Shred here. Yeah, he's just playing the Shred. Makes sense. Yep. He just wants to go full damage. Just gonna be interesting. Probably... Oh, Frailty. Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting choice. Maybe just turn off the daggers because he had a big hand, I guess. That makes sense. And now he's probably going for Annihilate, maybe crack the boots, send Leave No Witnesses. Just really aggressively utilizing that silver economy, utilizing that equipment, and just churning through it really quickly. Okay, 5 go again, Leave No Witnesses. Nice turn. I mean, damage-wise, right, like 9 damage is just on rate. But you've got the additional on-hit from the Leave No Witnesses in there, so you're not really complaining about that. And, yep, Annihilate with the cut to the chase. Makes sense. And if it hits, you can actually crack the boots. Leave No Witnesses. Not the worst. Yep. That's exactly what he did. And now he goes over it with the cut to the chase. Yep. And the mask, just banishing some extra cards. So that was a sink below. And Codex of Frailty. Oof. It's not giving you any silver, but you love to see a Codex gone. Like anytime you play this matchup, if the Uzuri has to block with a Codex, or has to banish a Codex from some effect or something, you always love to see those gone, because that's really like the main pivot card for Uzuri is really Codex of Frailty. Shakedown, and he's stripping the E-Strike, makes sense. Because the only thing he can do here is send a hurl, maybe dagger. Yep. Dagger, send a hurl, 4 damage. This is the turn that the 2-card hand that you don't want as an Uzuri, basically. Is like just dagger into hurl, 4 damage vanilla. That's not really what you're trying to do most of the times. Oh yeah, this is a nasty turn. This is like... This is why Redline can be nasty.
Nice.
Because you can just be like, okay, here's a stealth card for 14. that gives you like a frailty token on top. That's pretty nasty. And this is Annihilate. Yeah, it's like, okay, it's not so bad, but the thing about the banishes from the contracts is they just kind of add up. You know, like, you're like, yeah, you know, it's a card off the top, I don't care. But if you're looking at the deck sizes, right, like, Colin's already down to 46, and Ollie's still on 54. And they both started way over 60, so, yeah. That fatigue state is just kind of creeping closer and closer the longer the game goes on. Yep, and Ollie's got the looking for a scrap coming up. He loves that, so you can just go looking for a scrap into Slay the Scholars. Looking for a scrap is really fantastic. That card is honestly, I was underrating it a lot. 100%. I saw that card and was like, yeah, it's good and limited, you know. Not the worst, but it really can put in a lot of work. Okay, Codex of Bloodrot. Get the Death Touch in Arsenal. Probably... I would probably still go Infect into Shakedown here. It's unfortunate he doesn't have the Tunic up, because then that turn would be pretty good, but this way it's just kind of eh. Yeah, and here's the Sink. So he just covers the Shakedown and nothing's really happening. And now the Leave No Witnesses coming in, and there's no clean block on it, you know. Yep, he has to pitch a card to it. That's actually not so bad. You can go like Rabble, Tunic, Death Touch. Oof, Frailty Trap, man. Yeah, that's annoying. That is annoying. Still not the worst. If he doesn't fully cover the Death Touch, you can crack the boots, play the Codex, get a Leave No Witnesses, blow up the Arsenal. But he's probably gonna play the Oasis, I would assume. Pitch the Frailty Trap, Oasis it, fully covered up, gets a health back. Pretty good. But again, like, Ollie's not really going in with the crackback turns here. And they're, you can tell, right? Like I was telling before, you know, they were like, that deck difference, you know, that's still creeping up. But 35 is still pretty healthy, and the health totals are very low. So this is not a game that will regularly go to second cycle where you can really fully utilize the strengths of the fatigue deck, basically. And the Redline deck is actually a list that can play around give and take pretty well. Because if you block it with a reaction, right, give and take doesn't trigger. So it's like, okay, you know, I got these sinks, I got these shreds, I got the Razor's Edge, whatever. And all of these are cards where I'm like, yeah, I don't really care. If you hit me with a give and take, I'm just going to block it. I don't take the damage, you don't get the card. It's fine. Whereas the contract list is like, sure, you have a bunch of D-reacts, but all of the non-D-reacts in your deck are attacks, pretty much.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Ollie knows he's in for some hurt here. He can probably smell the Codex. Yep, Leave No Witnesses makes perfect sense here. Just blow up the Arsenal right again. This is interesting. Yep, getting the CNC makes sense. Full block. There's the value from the silver recycling, right? You just get those extra breakpoint blocks. You can just go like, I have mask, I have black takes, and I can recycle them several times per game. Lovely. That's a strength that the contract list definitely has. You can play with the silver economy. You can effectively utilize all of these assassin equipment pieces. And for the Redline list, you're lucky if you get one buyback in a game. And you're probably not getting it in this matchup just because the contract list is very defensive. And those leave no witnesses are not going to connect most of the time. Nice. Now it's isolate into shakedown, into surgical extraction. And that's interesting because, yeah, he's blocking with the hurl and then the fate, I guess. And then his turn is just do nothing. Yeah, I mean, he has to use the fate here because otherwise it's gone anyways. If he had used just the fate for scene, that would open him up to flick knives, but that's why you kind of don't do that. Yep. Oh yeah. And now it's isolate with a nimblism in front of it. And then probably spike, shred, just getting maximum damage out. Yep. And he knows he has to full block here because, I mean, the nimblism kind of telegraphs what you're trying to do, right? And he's flicking. This is lethal, actually. I think it's lethal. If he flicks here, 6 goes through, then the flick puts him at 6. He still has a D-react, but he can't play it because it's in hand. That's game. I think that's it.
GG.
Nice. Very nice. Oof. This was interesting back and forth. Like, especially from the first game, right? Same positions, basically. With Ollie starting, same deck, no changes, but this time Redline takes the game.
I just managed to take the aggression a lot more.
Yep.
That's what Redline wants to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the hands just lined up a little better for it, right? With the one hand in the middle of the game where it was just like, okay, this is Wither into Razor's Edge, Spike with Blood Rot.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, if it naturally lines up like that, you're just like, okay, I'll take it. Lovely. Just here's 14 damage and a frailty token. Pretty decent.
And a Blood Rot as well.
Yeah, like I calculated that into the 14, right? Like it's because it's 12 and then the Blood Rot on top, but yeah, that's pretty nasty. Man, I really wish that spikes were more playable, like the other ones, just because attack reaction that actually adds an on hit is just so good. But the one cost is just kind of prohibitive. You just can't cram your deck full of spikes and expect it to actually do anything. Just the 3
I'm just
spike
glad that Dominate can be shown to end games, which is really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that's one of the strengths of the Redline list, right? It's just the ability to go, okay, I don't have to swap. I can just go like, okay, Nimblism, isolate, pump it with 2 reactions, you know? Mm-hmm. And I can end the game. It's basically like a build your own Macho Grande, basically, in a way. You know, it's just, I mean, it takes roughly the same amount of cards, right? Macho Grande is like, what, 3-card play
7.
if you have a Tunic up and you have 2 blues, or you have like a Seismic Surge and 2 blues. Like, it's a 3-card hand for 10 Dominate, I guess, in a way. And then if you have Tunic up, you can do Isolate, Razor's Edge, Spike with Blood Rot, which is 11 Dominate. So, you know, it's actually better than Macho Grande if you think about it that way. And then you can also, it's a little more flexible, right? Because you can kind of build it the way you need it to. And you can pitch stack those turns if you want to. Like, not in this matchup, because I think, I mean, Ollie's trying to play for second cycle with the fatigue strategy, but I think the Redline list is just a little too aggressive to actually let that happen naturally, right?
I mean, I can sort of play the second cycle. I mean, I don't want him to have all his D-reacts, but normally, if it goes out, I want him low enough that I can actually go for game.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like, I don't know.
I went a bit too low at the start.
What's the idea? Like, I mean, because you're bringing the full stack, right? Like, you're bringing all the cards in your deck. Naturally, there's a ton of 2 blocks now in there.
Yes,
do you think that maybe if you took out a bunch of those and kind of concentrated more on, okay, I have a bunch of like D-reacts and everything else in my deck pretty much blocks 3. Do you think that maybe makes the fatigue state a little more reachable because you can play more defensive? Or is that just, okay, having those 72 cards just naturally helps a lot with that?
If he plays less cards, he probably has less gas to go with, and I can probably stall him out a little bit more easily.
True. Yeah, maybe.
It does get problem when they clunk up and you get lots of 2 blocks.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I had a couple there, but...
All right. So we're actually going to have a game 3.
Yeah.
Love to see it. Very nice. Okay.
No matter who loses or who wins, it was a great match.
Yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah, I love to see those. Really good matches. And I mean, hey, no matter who wins, you know, like, it's an Uzuri that wins today, so that's the most important part.
Yeah, right. We're not screwing up the tech stats.
Definitely not, no. It's true. Okay, I can see your cards, perfect. And who's going first?
Archon.
Archon's going first. Okay, gotcha. I'll mute myself again and let you guys play the game. And then good luck. All right, let's see how it goes. So Archon's going first. So that's give and take. Ooh, and what? Wait, Colin's just taking that?
You're gonna love this.
That's interesting. Wait, so he does double oasis on the shakedown?
I drew so damn badly.
No, I don't remember.
Okay, so he goes back up to 38, so it doesn't matter that much. I guess that makes sense, yeah, okay. So you take the damage. You know the opponent doesn't have an arsenal, so it's not the worst. And now he can just go, okay, Codex of Bloodrot, put the Death Touch in there. Spider's Bite, Death Touch. Because he knows he gets the arsenal back anyways from the Ponder. That's not so bad. That's a pretty decent turn 1. Yeah. That's pretty strong. That is pretty strong, yep.
That feels bad to block.
Codex of Bloodrot to save my hand.
Yeah, he's right. It really did, yeah. It did, because that Codex of Frailty in his hand was unplayable.
Full break without it.
In this board state. And then the Death Touch is unplayable, right? Because, you know, it's a Death Touch. You can't play it from hand if you don't have a stealth card, so... probably, yeah, another Blood Rot. Makes sense. Just get that extra damage through. And then, ooh, another Death Touch from the Ponder. Nice. That's good. That's pretty good. And he just dagger into Leave No Witnesses. That's an easy block there. No issues taking 4 from the Blood Rot. And now it's probably just Nimblism into Death Touch. Yep. Arsenal, the Codex of Frailty, makes sense. Death Touch for 9 is just filthy. That is just filthy. But here's the strength of the contract list, right? You have a 1-card hand that actually doesn't feel bad. Plunder the Poor is one of the best 1-card hands you can have in the deck, because that's essentially just free silver. And now it's E-Strike, Nimblism, Leave No Witnesses, I guess. Yep. And I would not be surprised if he cracks the boots here, just to do like Codex of Frailty. Yep. And he gets blown out by the D-React. And there's the flick. Perfect. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yep. That's what you have it for. This is why Flick Knives is good, because you can do this. And now he gets to play the Codex of Frailty.
To give up Scalpel that early, but it's necessary.
Yeah, no, he had to keep the tempo here. Because otherwise the boots are gone and he's not getting them back. Like, there's no way he's getting the boots back in this situation. So you have to make them count. Even if you have to give up the Scalpel. Yep, and he can't block, so that's just free 4 damage.
Nice.
And he gets a second silver, so he actually does get the boots back from that turn. Which is good. Which is good. Can't complain about that. So he's put Ollie on the defensive basically from the get-go. And it's Isolate, Shakedown. Potentially cracking boots again. Nah, okay, he's playing it safe. That's fair. That's fair. Yep. And yeah, now this is Codex into CNC. That's a classic. Yep. Oh no, Shakedown, he didn't have a CNC? He did not have a CNC. Yeah, that hurts. Okay, that's kind of bad. Yep. Yep. But he's blocking 6, so it's fine. Can't hate it. And that's just Leave No Witnesses. Potentially Black Text, but I don't think that's gonna go through unblocked. I don't think that's gonna go through unblocked. Yep, just blocking 6. That's fair. And then Shakedown, yeah. And yeah, this is what Flick Knives does, right? Like normally, if you don't have Flick Knives, you can just block that surgical with 1 card, and you're good to go. You can just block it with the Sync. You're fine. You're happy. That's good. But because of Flick Knives, you are forced to double block it, basically. Just because he can flick, and then the Sync doesn't do anything. Yep. Dagger looking for a scrap, and then probably just Arsenal the backstab. So you have a stealth card for whatever swap you want to do in your next hand. That's pretty good. Yeah, probably blocking with the Wither, and then you don't mind pitching to Oasis in this situation.
Damn it.
And Oasis actually gets around Flick too, so yeah, that's pretty good. And now you can just go backstab, flip into Death Touch. Pretty decent. Yep. That's an easy double block though. strike. Yep. Makes sense. Rabble, dagger, Codex of Frailty. And then probably, let me check. CNC, yeah, he does have one.
Can you bloody stop that?
Hey, so he doesn't want to play into the frailties. Which makes sense, because you're losing value. That's fair. This is kind of annoying here because he doesn't have anything good. But there's no flick knives. Okay. And he took the sedate. Yeah, makes sense. That makes sense because the hand's kind of dead. Yep. Yeah. Like, sometimes you just have to discard to Codex, you know? That's just how it goes. Can't always play around it fully. Sadly, it's not possible.
Hand was shit anyway, so, shit. Doesn't even work. So bad.
Oof. Yeah, that sucks.
That's so bad.
Probably need to give up Tunic or Flick here. I'm guessing the Tunic.
So bad.
Maybe the Tunic. I don't know. It's rough. Like, this is one of those situations where you kind of want to block the dagger. Just because, you know, it just sucks so much having to block like this. And he's not in a position where he can afford to eat.
Well, thanks for the tunic.
Where he can afford to eat
Pretty bad.
the 6, unfortunately. Unfortunately. Yeah, CNC with dagger is just filthy. Sometimes you just have to block the daggers. And if you have a 2-block, you know, it doesn't feel so bad to block a dagger with it. That's pretty okay. Codex of Bloodrot. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Swap in a CNC, blow up that Humble. Equalize the health a little bit. Codex of Frailty in Arsenal, perfect. I mean, you don't have a Tunic, so if you don't have the Tunic, Codex of Frailty gets significantly worse. Sadly. At least for Uzuri. For Ranger, I think it doesn't make a ton of difference, but for Uzuri without Tunic, Codex of Frailty loses a lot of its potential. Just because you can't do dagger CNC off of Tunic anymore with the Codex. And that's one of the best things you can do with Codex, so. Yeah. But you can do dagger into Death Touch. That's not the worst. Especially when you're up in health. You can do dagger into Death Touch. Now I'm curious to see, yeah, Death Touch as well. Okay, that makes sense, because he's got a Nimblism, so he can just go like Nimblism, Death Touch, and he has the Tunic up to pay for it actually. So he uses, yeah, Frailty Trap. Doesn't even care about the Death Touch. And now he's coming in for 8, which is pretty filthy. Let's see if he gives up the flick here, actually. I could see it, honestly. Like, giving up the flick when you haven't flicked once feels kind of bad. But then again, I think most of the defense reactions on Colin's side are gone. Let's see, he's played one sink. Actually, he has only played a single sink. So there's 2 sink belows left in the deck. You're trying to keep the flick knives if you can here. Yeah, makes sense. Hmm. 5 draw card. Also makes sense. You don't really want to do 7 unless it's lethal. Like, the card in Arsenal is almost always worth more than the extra 2 damage. Probably Arsenals do aces. Yep, that makes sense. Okay, this hand's pretty good. You can go like E-strike. Yeah, just fade some extra damage here. Yep, E-strike into Codex. Leave no witnesses. Can't grab Death Touch, sadly, but that works. Yep. And now he can actually get full value from the flick. Or force him basically to double block. Yep. Okay, they rewind it a little bit. Okay, so he just goes dagger into nothing. Oh no, he plays the remembrance. Okay, yep. And he's actually fatiguing here. This is interesting. The Redline list is actually the one that has a card advantage, or deck advantage rather. That's interesting to see. So we go hurl. But Ollie has his own remembrance coming back up now, so we're firmly in second cycle now. And he pitches the remembrance. Okay, that makes sense. You can still play it at a later point. It'll just cycle back around and you can just keep playing it. So that makes sense. Yep, there's the sink. So again, you can't really... Yeah. That kind of hurts. Playing the Codex and having to discard the Death Touch is not great. But you still have the Death Touch, so it's not the end of the world. Sometimes you just have to discard the Codex. It's just how the game goes. Nothing you can do. Yeah, but Ollie's running out of threats a little bit. I wonder if maybe playing that Remembrance to get like some CNCs or something back into his deck might not have been the better choice here. Let's see, what did he put back with the Remembrance? I can't see it anymore. Yep. Playing around the cut to the chase makes sense. Because there it would have been. And then it is probably hurl into Enlightened Strike for 5 draw card, I would assume. Yep. Surgical, okay. That's kind of the worst Arsenal card. Worst thing to Arsenal, really.
Oh shit, not done. Sorry.
It's kind of the worst card to Arsenal here, yeah. It's okay, in second cycle I guess it's fine, because you know you're going to draw a bunch of yellows and blues at this point, so it's not the worst. But yeah. And he has the sink now, so that kind of hurts. But actually, yeah, it's pretty good. You can flick here, why not? Yeah, I would have probably waited. Because, yeah. It makes sense you want to flick, because that's realistically, this is the last turn that he can flick. So that kind of makes sense. He might be forced to block with the flick, and you don't want to block with a flick when you haven't flicked even once. That just feels kind of bad. Oof, man, this game is like... This is going long. Holy shit. They're both so low on cards in the deck. And there's the Razor's Edge on an Infect. It's pretty nasty, but he does have the Sink below in Arsenal. Okay, so he plays the Remembrance first, so he can sink into a threat. Makes sense, because he has 2 Isolates and those don't do anything. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him grab like a couple of probably not Codex of Frailties. He might be grabbing those, but I think he's gonna go for like 3 CNCs or something. 3 shakedowns, yeah, okay, makes sense, yes. Because now the chance that he draws one of those is like very high. Oh boy. Oh boy.
All right.
The cards are not with you today, my friend. They are not with you today. This is sad. This is kind of sad. Oh my god. Oh boy. This is not good. Not like this. Then again, you know, Colin's out of deck, so all he has to do is survive at this point. That's not the worst. Death Touch for 9 is pretty bad, but you can just block, like, I don't know, block with the flick, I guess. Yep, and then sink it. Yep, that makes sense. This is a very interesting...
Very close match. Very
oh
close.
Boy. That was fun to watch. A little frustrating with those shakedowns and then just drawing the sink. And I was going in chat, yeah, it makes sense. He plays the Remembrance to get some threats back into his deck so he can sink into one of the threats. And then you sink into another sink and then just draw 3 shakedowns the next turn.
Literally, I know. All shakedowns in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out in the end, right?
Yeah, but it was just funny.
But yeah, this was a fun match. Definitely very, very interesting match to see.
Very close, very close.
That was really close. Like, honestly, I think the analysis that Contract has a slight edge in the mirror is probably still correct. I think we've shown that today because
very slight.
A slight edge. It's not massive, right? Like, you can win through damage, you can win through fatigue, but both are not super. It's not like it's an easy matchup. You still have to respect the Redline deck and the ability to just pump out a ton of damage in a fairly short amount of time, right? And if you disrespect that, you can still die. And you've showed that in the second game very beautifully. So yeah, those were some really great games, and it's like that's what we're getting from the chat here too. Great games. I can absolutely echo that. Those were awesome to watch.
Yeah,
thanks
really
a lot. And yeah, Ollie's the winner here. Definitely. Contract Uzuri takes the day by a very small margin, I would say, but she still takes the day. Definitely. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, how about we go over, like, do a little bit of a post-game analysis of sorts. Did you feel good with how the decks operated? Like, is there anything that you would change? Because I imagine, like, neither of you have played this matchup extensively, I would guess. Like, I don't know, you guys have done like tons more testing than I did, but Uzuri is still not, I would say, the most played deck of all time. She's getting there, definitely, with like, what was it? Third most played deck, I think, at the Battle Hardened, right, in Germany.
Yeah.
So that's very respectable stats. But before that, right, in Baltimore, there was like, what, 5 Uzuris, if I remember correctly?
In the Pro Tour, yeah.
In the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
And
the
then
PTI
like
event,
53 in the calling.
yeah, way more in the calling, but yeah.
At the PTI event in Germany, it was the most represented deck as well.
Yep.
Really?
The most represented, actually. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. That is pretty insane, actually. Yeah. Okay. So somebody's in chat is asking if we're going to make some more duels with other players. So if we're gonna play a couple more rounds, or if you guys are gonna play a couple more rounds into like randoms or something. If you're up for it, I'm up for it. We could do that. Or if somebody in chat wants to take a spin against one of these guys, if you guys are up for it, I've got some time. There's a holiday tomorrow, so I'm not in a hurry. But if you guys are like, okay, let's wrap this up. We've done what we came here for. That's obviously also fine. Either way works for me.
I'm not going to speak for Ollie over here, but I'm down to take any matches with the audience.
Okay.
I'm happy to watch. I'm probably as much as I got time for, but I'll watch for a bit. And
okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, let's just quickly do like a little bit of post game analysis, right? Just to go over what we just saw. So, is there like in your mind anything that stands out where you go like, okay, this was something that in retrospect I should have done different, or this is something where I should change the deck maybe a little bit, or something that overperformed or underperformed? Obviously kind of hard to tell from like 3 games, but you know what I mean.
I would say both our decks did fine, but I can't speak for Ollie.
I had quite a few misplays, I think, where I should have blocked with certain cards.
Okay.
But the 2 blocks were kind of, I definitely felt the bad side of the 2 blocks in the second game, especially, and then the third game a bit.
Yep. Yeah. I can imagine, because I mean, if you run the full pile, you're on like what? Let's see, that's 3,
about 13,
6. Then we got
13.
8 here. Then the hurls, that's 11. Looking for scrap, yeah, 13, and the codex. You're actually on 15 2 blocks.
15, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It was on the that CNC when I had Spiders Bite Live with 3 2 blocks.
Yeah. Oh god, that turn hurt to watch, where you're forced to give the entire hand and the tunic just to stop the CNC. Yeah, that definitely hurt. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I got somebody in chat asking if I'm gonna make this a series and have other people do. We were thinking about this actually, like in Uzuri chat. We had the idea that we could try to get like kind of like representatives of each channel and then just kind of like duel it out, right? Because a lot of heroes have this where you have these different archetypes within the hero, right? Like let's say for Dromai, for example, you have like your big dragon Dromai, you have your Empress Dromai, and you've got these 2 kind of camps, right? And then you could do these kind of battle series where you're like, okay, let's do best of 3 match, see which one is better, that kind of thing. We also had the idea that we could kind of turn it into an actual tournament where we just go like the Fab TCG Discord tournament where each channel nominates like, I don't know, 3 players or something. And then we actually make like a big-ish, I guess, with like in total 30 players or so. Tournament out it, play a couple rounds of Swiss, have a top 8, properly. Maybe get a couple other streamers, couple other YouTubers in on it, and just kind of get them to cast the games and stuff. But this is like, that was just, spitballing. But it sounds like a cool idea, definitely. I would love to do something like that. But that's probably going to take a little more time to fully hash out and fully get something like this done. But it's an idea. It's something we could do in the future. And then we got Chris3015 who wants to play against one of you, actually. So Colin, if you're up.
I'm down.
Up or down, either works. Just
or sideways.
Or sideways, sure, yeah. Go ahead. Just make a game, post me the link. I'll drop it in the chat, or you drop it in the chat yourself. If you have the stream open.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yep. Just set it to private, obviously, so no random goes in there. And then somebody also suggested, actually my most loyal subscriber, I should give you a title for that. I gotta figure out if I can do that. Suggested that you should play a Viserai, because I think that's still...
Ignore the first link, click the second.
The second link, hang on. Where'd you drop it?
In the chat.
Ah, you dropped in a chat. Okay, I think it hasn't shown up for me yet. Like, there's a little bit of a delay there for some reason. It's still not showing up, I think. Weird.
You might not be able to post links in the chat.
Oh, that's possible, yeah.
Probably. I'll do that,
just send it to me. I can drop it in the chat. That works. So we're actually already done with all the 3 matches, and it went like Ollie won the first one by damage, then Colin won the second one by damage, and then Ollie won the last one by fatigue and like a hair's breadth, basically. But he did win. So Contract Uzuri is the winner overall. Okay, I'm gonna drop that in there. So there you go. And Chris 3015, this is for you.
Feel free to play any hero.
And then drop me a spectator link once you're done. Perfect. Lovely.
This will be interesting to see from this side. I've actually never played Redline.
Oh, okay, so it's another Uzuri mirror. Okay, that's cool. All right. Okay, I'm not gonna do the whole caster thing here. Actually, I might.
Feel free to do what you want to do, Pen.
Yeah, that's fair. Chris, are you actually still in the stream? Because if you are, caster mode obviously would be like a little bit of an advantage.
Interesting. Alright, that's a little bit annoying, but that's fine. That's fine. We're fine.
10-0 no shows 9.
That's annoying. Hey, Chris, priorities on you if you want to pass it over.
How can you... now he's asking how he can show his hand. Okay, hang on. You both have to enable caster mode in the options, and you have to switch to the legacy Talisha client to do that, because the beta one doesn't support it. Okay, perfect. Yes, I can see both of your hands. So you now just drop out of the stream. So there's no cheating or anything involved, obviously. And I'm going to mute myself in the Discord so that Colin doesn't get an unfair advantage from me calling out cards. All right. Good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see how this goes. So I don't know what kind of list Chris is on, but it looks like it's just a Redline mirror, I guess. Looks like a Redline mirror, basically, yeah. Okay, so this is just a naked shakedown, basically. So he has to flick or crack the boots in order to actually turn it on. And I don't think he wants to crack the boots here. Yeah, Chris, it works. It works perfectly. I can see all the hands. It works. We're good. Who is favored? Uzuri versus Uzuri? It depends. Like, as we've demonstrated today, Contract Uzuri is favored into a Redline list slightly. Like, it's not a massive advantage or anything. Yeah, it's Uzuri. That's a good point. In an Uzuri mirror, Uzuri is gonna win 100% of the time. That's a very astute observation by you. Definitely. So yeah, okay, this is interesting. Razor's Edge, Spike with Blood Rot. Yeah, that's the classic classic Redline plays, classic Colin Swisher plays there. Just go Infect, Razor's Edge, Spike with Blood Rot. Just hit for 13 damage off of 3 cards. Pretty good. Can't complain about it. And I guess, yeah, this is like the list from Chris seems like a little bit of a hybrid list. Because I'm seeing some blue stealth cards in here. He's running, looking for a scrap, so he's trying to enable that, obviously, with the blue stealth attacks as a banish target. And he's also running, apparently, Plunder the Poor. So he's running a bunch of contracts, probably to enable some extra silver generation to recur the black text. Yep, easy block there. And now it's just, yeah, isolate into Death Touch. 2-card hand, perfect. That's what Uzuri wants to do. Efficient 2-card hands. That's kind of the best. But because he did prioritize the Fate, he can actually play around it. So there's nothing happening here. That's pretty good. Can't complain about that. Yep, Nerve Scalpel, pitching away the Spreading Plague for later in the game. Makes perfect sense. And then it's just Hurl into Leave No Witnesses. Good stuff. 7 damage off of 2 cards. It's on rate, but you've got the additional disruptive on hit from the Leave No Witnesses, threatening that silver generation, and both players know how important that silver is, because if you get the boots back even once, it's such a game changer, basically. Having like 2 activations of boots is really, really good for Uzuri, basically, in so many situations. Yep, so he just goes in with the Leave No Witnesses. Has a Shred. Yep, that makes sense to back it up. And now Colin's turn is just isolate into Spike with Blood Rot. Classic stuff. You think, and the good stuff about this is if you just let the isolate stay on the stack, you just get around defense reactions, basically, as long as they're in hand, right? Just because it still has Dominate. You can't play them. That's kind of the nasty part about Redline Uzuri with the spikes, you know? It's just, you can just punch over what the opponent expects you to do. You can just fork and have different ways to play out your hands. And that's where the list has an advantage. The downside to that is it's less, generally less, I would say, smooth to play. Because you can occasionally get these hands that are just, okay, I drew a bunch of reactions. You can just draw like Razor's Edge, Spike with Blood Rot, and an Ace's Respite, and a Sink Below. And then your hand is just, okay, yeah, I guess I'm not doing anything with this turn. And that can hurt, you know, sometimes that's not great. And the more I would say blue favorite lists that run less reactions, they don't have that. You know, generally your draws tend to be smoother. You have less cards where you're like, yeah, I don't really want to have this in Arsenal. And you can generally just kind of play out your hand a little better. Also, your ponders are less often dead draws, so that's pretty good too. But I think Colin has shown us that the classic Redline list, you know, like the stuff pioneered by Ben Dodd, played by Sam Dando, first basically in Chicago at the Brawl, Chicago. So this type of list that really runs extremely red heavy and extremely reaction heavy comparatively, that list still has a bunch of legs. And you can still kill people with it. Yep. That's kind of unfortunate, because he's calling red, obviously. At least I think he's calling red. He's not. He called yellow. Okay. Probably trying to get around a codex play. This is like, I think, figuring out what to call on Shakedown in which matchup is one of the hardest skills to learn as an Uzuri player. And I know I'm not very good with it. I frequently call the wrong thing, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I should have called red. I should have called blue, whatever. I think that just takes a lot of practice and a lot of experience to be able to figure out, okay, when do I call what? You know, what's the correct color to call for Shakedown? Yeah, that yellow call was just, I get it. You know, if you want to play around the codex, it makes sense. But yeah, I think versus a red line list, you're probably safer to just call red, you know. I think something that I was doing a lot, and that kinda just punished me, was trying to call for like value cards, right? Being like, okay, yeah, if they have this and this here, that really hurts me, so I'm gonna call that color of that card. Like, for example, calling yellow into Lexi, right? Because you want to get around like Rain Razors, you want to get around a I don't know, Codex of Frailty, Art of War, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think just taking the safe play, just calling whatever is the most common color in their deck, and then just getting the guaranteed, or like, you know, not guaranteed, but the more likely hit just to strip a card is probably mostly the better play. Death Touch, giving Blood Rot, putting him to 4. Yep. And you know, like, double Ponder isn't that great, but Codex of Bloodrot into Codex of Frailty is not the worst, I think. Unless your opponent already has an arsenal, then it's kind of, yeah, you know, you're wasting a lot of value there. And the Leave No Witnesses for 3 is just, yeah, okay, that's not going to do a whole lot. Because you can just, you know, single card block it, and that's it. Yep. Just gives him too much agency. I mean, in this situation, it's actually not so bad, because he can draw 2 cards and then potentially pitch into the Bloodrot Pox. If he had drawn a blue here. Or he just decides to give up the arsenal because he's on 4. That makes sense too. Yep. No, that makes sense. And now it's isolate into command and conquer, flick for lethal. There we go. That's game, yeah. Okay.
So unfortunate.
Yeah, that's rough.
So, Chris, if you're back in the chat, what kind of list was that? Because it felt like it was mostly similar to Archon's list. You run a bunch more reactions, like you ran a couple of red shreds. I can see those in here, but it was still pretty contract heavy, right? Like plunder the poor. Yeah, it's your own list, but the general idea of it is kind of like a blue stealth contract list, except you're playing Crown of Providence, essentially. Does that about sum it up? Pretty decent. Like, good performance, definitely, yeah.
I wish my deck cooperated a little bit more, but what can you really say? It's fab.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the like inherent disadvantages of the Redline list, because you're so reaction heavy. You can just draw hands that don't do a whole lot. That's kind of an issue sometimes. Like generally, you know, if you have 3 reactions and then 1 attack, 1 stealth attack, you're fine, because that's kind of like, okay, just gonna do, you know, infect, raises edge, spike with blood rot. You're happy to do that. That's a great turn. But sometimes you can just draw like 4 reactions in one hand, and then it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, I guess I don't really do anything here. And that's kind of like an issue that the Redline list inherently has a little more than a contract list, especially with the way that Archon has kind of geared the list recently to run as little reactions as possible, basically, just to make it smoother to play, and make the arsenal, you know, more playable and everything. They're actually already done. Chris won the game. All right. Does anyone else want to have a go? Or we could do the thing where you try to find a Viscerai and play against that, if you're up for it. Because I think that's like Viscerai is a matchup that gives a lot of Uzuri players like trouble. Weirdly enough, in my experience, I never really had issues with it. But I think that's mostly like, we're not talking about a huge sample size here. And basically anytime I play a Viscerai, I just draw gas for some reason. It's just back-to-back disruption, and they can't really recover from it. So my personal experience has been pretty decent, but I do realize it's a matchup that is rough for Uzuri if the Viscerai hand lines up very well. And then I think especially if you're on a Redline list, you have a hard time actually preventing the damage from all of the arcane that's coming your way.
I mean, I could go on Talishard and try to find a Viscerai player here.
Yep. Sounds good. Absolutely.
Sharing my screen.
Yep. Oh, you can just share the game, right? Like, just drop me a spectator link.
Yeah, but you can't see my hands, and I think that will help a lot.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, let's see how I do this then. I think I just go.
Right. I've got to shoot, but thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I think I did
it was a pleasure,
like
man.
for Viscerai.
And
Love
good
to
luck
see
into Viscerai.
GG's. Okay, I'm gonna put that here, and then I will.
There we go.
Hang on, guys. I just gotta do it like this window capture.
We good to go, Pen?
Hang on a second. I'm still setting it up. But I think we should be good to go. Okay, how's this looking, guys? Can you see a screen? There we go. Yep. Should work.
All right,
okay,
let's
lovely.
go.
Yep.
Pretty bad hand here.
Did you go first, or did he make you?
He went
he went first. He made a rune chant, and then just arsenaled. Okay, yep, got it. Yeah, this isn't great. It's not the best hand, to be honest.
Yeah, just gonna try
no
to go for
disruption is kind of rough. Like, you always want to see the disruption if you're going second, but you know, sometimes it just doesn't line up. It's the nature of the game. Can't really do anything about it. Red Moth. You're happy to just block that out. It's not the worst.
Problem is, I want to go for a play where I keep my shred, so I just have to give them equipment here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess, because you're wanting to keep the shred up for the surgical, right?
Yeah, it's only 4.
Yeah, not much you can do there. And the Rosetta now. Oh, wow.
Good lord.
Yep. Yeah, that's Viscerai for you. Not much you can do. I mean, realistically, you know, like, I try to see it that way. You're gonna eat one of those turns per game. There's nothing you can do about that. And the earlier you get it, the better, because now you still have the health, right? You still have the life to actually eat a turn like that and be like, okay, fair enough. That works for me.
And I gotta take the...
Honestly, I'm not sure if...
You gotta take the attack action.
Yep. Makes sense, yeah. Like, I don't know if keeping the shred was worth it in this situation, but I guess
it's better safe than sorry.
Yeah, it makes sense, because you don't really want to flick your nerf scalpel this early into the game, I guess.
Or if you block with equipment.
Yep. And you do see Viscerai running Sync Belows frequently. Like, that's usually the only thing he has in the deck, but you can definitely see some Sync. What did he do? Like, he
became the Arcanite, got
okay, right. Grab the Shrill. Yeah, okay, makes sense. And then he's just coming in for 7. Okay. No on-hit there, so, yeah.
Yeah, just had to dig a bit. Unfortunately, still no disruption in Arsenal in the graveyard. So
yeah, that's like early codex kind of hurts, right? Like, you don't really want to pitch it away in a matchup like this, because you know you're not going to see second cycle. And you don't really want to...
There we go. That's the turn I can play.
That's pretty good. Oh, yeah. Oh, damn. That is definitely good, yeah. Like, depending on what he does, obviously, but, you know, it's not the worst. Probably has another Shrill here. But you love that he blocked the... you kind of love to see that he used the crown on, like, raw damage, right? Anytime the opponent blocks vanilla damage with equipment, you're happy to see that as an Uzuri. That's just where you want to be. That's the spot you want to be in, basically.
I took the Arcane because being green already has go again for Mob.
Yeah, makes sense. In that case, it doesn't matter, yeah. You just want to block it out to stop the...
If you go to Rebel again... Oh, it's attack action, it's fine.
Okay. I mean, honestly, that's kind of okay. Like he used the Iron Weave inefficiently, just to attack with Rosetta. That's like, okay, I can work with that, and he's probably not gonna block this. So you can just go, okay, boots, and then just get it back.
Missed the attack reaction step.
Yep, that's fair. It happens sometimes. You get like over eager. I think you just get the leaving the witnesses back, right?
Yeah, that's what I have to do.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I drew so badly in the beginning I couldn't get tempo.
Yeah, it happens. But honestly, I mean, it's still possible, I think. If you can now keep the disruption up every turn, and he's forced to play 3-card hands, that is kind of like significantly worse.
It's just fine.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
Yeah. It's doable.
I'll have black text back next turn, so...
Yep. That's pretty good. Like, second activation from black text. Always love to see that.
Just got denied to go again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why, but Fab hates me today.
It happens sometimes, you know.
Like, I mean, the main volley would be fine, but
the main issue with Viserai is basically, and this is kind of true for the more aggressive, or generally any aggressive deck, basically, right? Like your Fai, Katsu, whatever. Anytime you don't draw your disruption, and they get to keep doing what they want to do for like 2 or 3 turns, you just lose. It happens, you know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It definitely happens versus Viserai, because if you just let him do his thing and you just do vanilla damage and he can just eat it, you know. That's how you lose versus Lexi too, right? Like, if you don't get your disruption into a Lexi, she just kills you. Sometimes in like 2 turns, it happens.
Definitely.
Yeah. And this is what I refer to as like an Uzuri brick. Like, it's hard to actually brick in the sense that you just get a hand that does nothing. But an Uzuri brick is basically a hand that doesn't have disruption in it, you know, in a lot of cases.
Okay, now we're getting tempo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. Like, you just go Codex of Bloodrot, Infect, switch into Shakedown. It's pretty good.
Yep.
And you get a free arsenal on top of it. Can't hate it.
Yep.
And he's not blocking at all. Yeah, you always take...
What the hell is this?
Boy, double Moderate. Yeah. Absolutely take the Moderate. Actually...
No, I'm taking the Glue Veil.
Yeah, that's fair. It depends. If he has another attack in hand, in the arsenal now, it can be kind of annoying.
He had a Vexing Malice, but I'm not too afraid of texting.
Oh, right. He gets to... You see what he's putting in arsenal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, no, you don't. Why did you see the Vexing? Huh. Right. It's blue.
Oh, bloody hells.
You can't choose it. He had another one, yeah. This is kind of annoying. Not much you can do about it, unfortunately.
Viserai things, I guess.
Yep, absolutely, yeah. I think you're just... Yeah, you have to block. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just dead.
Yeah, Any time he gets to attack with anything, you're dead, unfortunately, yeah.
I just pray he doesn't block here.
He probably just eats that, to be honest. If he eats it, yeah,
no,
if he eats it, you
can
flick. Yeah, true, you can flick. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, fair. I mean, this is not the best. He has a Maul.
And he fights Gloomvale again. Bloody else.
Yeah.
That's game.
Yeah, Gloomvale, and he has a hand with like only reds. Man, that's annoying.
And a blue.
I would, probably cycle a Death Touch, right?
Oh,
and find another Death Touch, of course, yes.
Thank you, Talishar.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just not meant to be. It's not meant to be. But honestly, like, think about it. Your hands were pretty bad. You didn't really find a lot of disruption. And he's still on 3 life, right? It's not like this was a steamroll on his part, right? It's not like he killed you like 20-0 or something. You got him to 3. If you have a little bit more disruption in there, this is a pretty winnable matchup, in my opinion.
It's not a terrible matchup,
it's not
but
terrible,
if he just keeps recycling,
it's slightly favored.
So annoying.
It's slightly favored for Viscerai, simply based on the fact that you have so few blues in the deck. So he just kind of has this kind of inevitability from the rune chance at some point. You know, he just goes like, okay, I just have Rosetta for 2, so anytime you go down to 1, you're just dead. And I have rune chance, and you have a bunch of reds in the deck, so it's not really efficient for you to actually pitch into the rune chance, and you just leak damage constantly, and there's not really anything you can do about it. And that's kind of annoying. That's pretty annoying, honestly. But
if you can't find your disruption in the beginning, it's pretty easy to lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just gotta pray your deck cooperates with you.
Yep. 100%. You know, it is what it is. Sometimes.
And as you just saw, it did not cooperate.
It did not cooperate. Yeah, but that's what I was saying, right? Like the aggro matchup, specifically Viscerai, but basically every aggro matchup, I think, as Uzuri comes down to, okay, am I finding my disruption? Can I stop them from doing whatever it is they want to do? And that's really what's kind of key in that matchup, is just finding that disruption, lining that up, making it work, and then you have a very good chance at winning. But if your disruption doesn't line up, you know, there's not really that much you can do. I think, you know, it feels like it would be nicer if you had more actually disruptive cards you can put in the deck, because it kind of feels like there's basically 9, right? You've got CNC, Shakedown, Surgical, I guess Leave No Witnesses. And those are the only ones that actually strip cards, unless you start running stuff like Cut Down to Size, you know? Which is by far the weakest of the bunch. So it feels like Uzuri could use, I would say, 1 more card that has like a really decent disruptive on-hit effect, I think. 1 more. Any more than that, it would become oppressive. It can already feel oppressive if you kind of high roll and you just draw back-to-back disruption and your opponent just doesn't get a foot in the game. That's already pretty bad. But I think maybe 1 more couldn't hurt. Maybe make it a legendary spec or something, you know. So it's a once-off in the deck, and then it can be really good. That would be okay. On the other hand, it would be hard to print something that's more disruptive than, you know, Surgical Extraction. That's kind of like the best on-hit in the game, I feel, at the moment. Maybe outside of stuff like Crippling Crush, that's probably better. But
maybe if you gave Uzuri some sort of Spinal Crush-like effect, that would be interesting.
Yeah, something like Spinal Crush or Red in the Ledger, you know, where she has an on-hit that kind of attacks from a different angle. Where it's like, okay, because every on-hit she has pretty much, with the exception of Death Touch, is just strip a card, essentially. or like any disruptive on hit at least. It's like, okay, CNC strips a card, Leave No Witnesses strips a card, Shakedown strips a card, Surgical Extraction strips a card, right? And that's great. Like, stripping cards from your opponent's hand is great because it means they have less stuff they can do with their turn, obviously. It's a very good form of disruption. But having this extra axis of, okay, I'm going to negatively impact the turn you can do in a different way, the way that Azalea or Bravo can do, would be interesting to see if they go into that design space at some point with her. It's possible that they don't, because they feel like that's not what Assassin does, right? And that Assassin is basically the class that attacks your cards, either your hand, your arsenal, or your deck, in the case of Contracts, right? And it's possible that that's just kind of like the design space that they chose to do with Assassin, and that's all the class will ever get. Is like that stuff, and then damage, as we can see from cards like Spike with Bloodrot, Infect, Death Touch, where like your on-hit effects are essentially damage most of the time. So yeah, I'm definitely curious to see where they take this class in the future. I'm excited for Dusk Till Dawn. I'm hoping there's at least a few Assassin cards in there that can, kind of round out the class a little bit. I'm really hoping that Arachne actually gets some stuff, finally, because that's a sad joke at the moment, unfortunately, right? Like, just...
Wait, Arachne exists?
This is like, you can literally just take Uzuri and it's a better deck in every respect. It's sad. I mean, that's what Archon called his list, right? It's just be better Arachne. Because he was an Arachne player in the beginning, right? He started on Arachne and then switched to Uzuri because it's just better. Like, it's a sad truth. Arachne's not in a good spot right now. And I figure, like, they could give him, like, a really good specialization card. And that would go a long way to fixing it. And then the other thing I'm hoping for is, like, some other form of silver generation. Because I feel like we have enough payoff for silver, right, with the equipments.
I mean, you gotta keep in mind, silver is just a really good token on its own. It's pitch 3 and you draw a card.
Yeah, that's
that
pretty good.
That is so damn good.
Cycling is definitely good, but I feel like the lacking is not the silver payoff, right? You have payoff for your silver. The problem is getting enough silver to actually get that payoff. That's kind of the issue in most situations. And I feel like that's definitely something that they're gonna explore at some point. Just the fact that they put, the Shroud, Redback Shroud, in Outsiders, to me that screams there's going to be more silver generation down the line. Just because the card is completely useless in Outsiders. It's unplayable. In Outsiders Limited, it's completely pointless, basically. I mean, I guess it's like, okay, you can crack it once. It's like, Battle Worn, and then you can crack it to discount a reaction. Okay, nice. But the entire rest of the text on the card is just non-existent in Outsiders as a format alone. And then if you look at it, like, it's useless in Arachne because Arachne doesn't really want to play reactions that cost anything. And it's kind of useless in Uzuri because she doesn't want to, or she wants to generate silver, but she can't generate silver and run reactions that cost anything at the same time. It's just such a weird kind of, I don't know, cognitive dissonance with the card. Oh, Mansand, hi. How you doing? What you mean? Redback won me my 3-0 PT pod. Okay, how did that work? How did that happen? Was it just literally, okay, I crack it and it discounts a spike? Was that what happened, or?
If you think about it this way, Battle Worn is super good and limited against Azalea.
Yeah, it is.
Because Battle Worn gear just makes Widowmaker
Yeah, that's true.
One card per hand.
That is true. That is true. Battle Worn is the only equipment that doesn't go away once you block with it. That's true. Good stream. Thanks. Obviously not up to your level yet, but I'm working on it. Just getting into this whole YouTube stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Redback Shroud is a bad equipment per se. I think it has the potential to be an extremely good equipment at some point in the game with some support. I could 100% see Redback Shroud replacing Tunic for Assassin at some point in the future.
Granted, I don't think it'll replace it for Redline anytime soon unless we get like amazing one-cost reactions.
Yeah, not for Redline probably, yeah, because the silver generation... I mean, unless Redline gets a way to generate silver reliably, right? At that point, you'd be happy to run Redback Shroud over Tunic because, you know, then you can get the spikes and they're free. You can maybe start running like stuff like, I don't know, Razor Reflex and it's free. You know, that kind of thing. I could see it. It's the main issue right now with it is there's both a lack of silver generation and a lack of really good one-cost attack reactions. That's kind of the issue it has. But in theory, it's a good card. The text on it is good. The cards that could use it as support just don't really exist yet. That's kind of the issue with it, in my opinion. But it's a... yeah. You know, I don't know, Ethan. I wonder why no one has explored that. You know, I wonder why.
I don't know. It seems like a very good list.
Yeah, it's a good list. You know, you should run it in your stream tomorrow. Like, run that list all day and then see what happens. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Tunic, the problem generally, the main issue with Tunic is that Tunic is just absurdly good. That's kind of like, it's hard to get around how good Tunic is and how many things it unlocks specifically for Uzuri. There's so many lines that are just flat out not possible if you don't have Tunic. It's kind of sad, actually. And that goes for a lot of decks, really, right? Like, that's why it's so expensive. It's just the best chest piece for a lot of classes at the moment. And that's why I want to see them print cards that can kind of replace Tunic, right? I want to have class-specific chest equipments that are better than Tunic in specific builds, or even in general, right? I want to arrive at a point where I can go like, okay, I don't need Tunic to make this deck work. I can run Redback Shroud instead, because there's a way I can build a deck that Redback Shroud is better than Tunic. And currently the only decks that can really do this are Bravo, basically, Dash, and even for Dash you kind of have Tunic in the sideboard in a lot of cases, just for the pistol matchups. And then Dromai, because you can run Furnace, and that's just better than Tunic specifically for Dromai. But that's kind of what I want to see, right? Like, is Tunic replacements that are just better than Tunic, but Tunic's still an option, obviously, if you have it. But yeah, I don't know. It's just not great having this entry barrier into the game where you're like, hey, so you want to get into Flesh and Blood at a somewhat competitive level? Great. Drop 300 on a Tunic. Then drop 250 on a playset of Command and Conquer. Then drop
another 200 on a Crown of Providence.
Drop another 200 if that's enough on a Crown of Providence. Maybe drop another 150 on a playset of Enlightened Strike. You know, that's not a good spot to be in, right? For the game in a long term.
I mean, Magic's in a similar state, and that card game is still going strong.
It depends on the format a lot, I think. Because Magic just has formats that are much more approachable for casual players, right? if you play standard.
And kind of sad. We have a commoner. We have
but
limited formats.
The main problem, limited, of course, like limited's out of the question. Limited is a great format because it's just it's cheap, at least on a like per game basis. If you play exclusively limited, it can get expensive-ish, I guess. And it's fair, right? Because everyone has access to the same card pool, so there's no like paywall or anything to play limited, right? If you have the money to buy 3 packs, you can play limited basically. And obviously a bunch of people don't have the money to do that every week. That's why limited also has issues to some extent, in my opinion. But commoner is not really a good casual format, in my opinion, because commoner is both not really representative of what Flesh and Blood can do as a game, just because there's so much missing from the game if you reduce it to just common cards. And it's also not really a casual format, because you can play competitive commoner, and that's pretty cutthroat actually. And also commoner puts a huge bonus on aggro decks, in my opinion. Like, they just work better in commoner. So Clash is a good format that kind of replaces that and kind of does what commoner tries to do but fails. But unfortunately, it's not officially supported, so it's not really played that much. Yeah, I mean, it's great. I personally haven't played Clash yet because I cannot convince my locals to give it a try. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people have that issue, where it's just like, yeah, we could do that, or we just play Classic Constructed because we all have our decks and it's the best format, you know? And that's an issue. Like, it's hard to convince new players to get into a game where you're like, yeah, you have to drop upwards of $1,000 to get a competitive deck. It's just not great. It's not insurmountable, and a lot of other TCGs, if you get into really competitive scenes, are exactly the same. But if you want to compare it to Magic, for example, right? And you're like, hey, I want to pick up Magic, but I want to play it casually with friends. I just want to play some Magic. You just go like, okay, here's Commander. Grab a Commander deck, pre-con for like $30-40. You're good to go on a casual level. And I realize that's obviously not the same as like a 1v1 competitive game environment. It's a very different beast. But currently, Flesh and Blood is lacking something similar to that. And I think they're working on it with PvE. I have pretty big hopes that PvE is going to do for Flesh and Blood what Commander did for Magic.
Watch it be canceled like a Blizzard.
Yeah. We can see. I don't know how it's going to run down.
Bad joke.
Yeah. Oh, and I get an invite for the Clash Gauntlet. Thanks. Yeah. Sign me up for that. I'm in. I'm 100% in. Watch me play Uzuri in Clash and then just get demolished. It'll be fun. No, I'm serious. Like, honestly, Uzuri could be pretty good for Clash, actually. Yeah, no, I could see that. Like, you can't run CNC, obviously. You can't run Leave No Witnesses, so that kind of hurts. But you have Shakedown.
More to contracts, that could definitely work.
I guess you kind of you play contracts, and then you just run stuff like you run Humble, you run Cut Down to Size. You have a couple of
is Majestic options. Equipment allowed in Clash?
What?
Is Majestic Equipment allowed in Clash?
Yeah, Majestic Equipment is allowed. Legendary not.
No, we run Mask of Perdition.
But you can run Mask of Perdition and Snapdragons, yeah. And that's pretty good. Now, any equipment up to Majestic is allowed. Heroes, any rarity. And then specialization cards, any rarity. I think that's the rules. Correct me if I got that wrong off the top of my head.
I can see
but I think
I can see a contract list definitely working. But you don't have your great Majestic contract, which is a little bit above.
Yeah, that's a little limiting. But I could see like something similar to Archon's list, where it's like contracts with a blue stealth base to enable swaps, and then you can run like looking for a scrap, rabble, you know, stuff like that, to kind of extend
Not rabble,
a little bit.
but hurl.
Yeah, it depends how many blues you end up on.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, but yeah, like it would be.
Since
doable.
we won't have flick knights, we will have to probably run hurl.
That's true. Fair. Yeah, that's a good point. Because then you get some extra value from hurl, because you can actually hurl and have a way to get daggers in the opponent's face without.
We'll
running
have to
flick
do that
knights.
actually. That sounds interesting.
Sounds like could be an interesting format for Uzuri. So yeah, sign me up for that. I'm in 100%. Speaking of being in, I think I'll have to be out. So we're gonna end this here and call it a day. So thanks again, Colin, for coming on the stream, playing this with us. It's been great fun. And
of course.
Thanks to all of you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that you would like me do different, right? I'm still learning. This whole YouTube thing is pretty new to me, so let me know what I can do better so the whole thing gets more enjoyable for all of us. And that's it for today. See you next time.
Have a good one, folks.
All right.